And away we go. Welcome, everyone. They're filtering in. Looks like our links. Hold on a second. Let me turn on the camera. Looks like our links might not have gotten posted till the last minute, so people might be filtering in a little slower than usual. Moss told me he'd posted all the links. Silly me, I believed him. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First of all, I want to welcome a by proxy greeting to people watching us through the YouTube channel. They won't be able to interact with us directly, but they can kind of play the fly on the wall, talks amongst themselves, and see what that's about. Might be a small one today. We'll see. But let's start with by order of appearance. Mr. Dave, what's your question for today?
Um, so I was watching I don't know what you would call it, training, I guess, by Richard Bandler that was posted
Mhm.
recently.
Yep.
And it was like it was posted within the last like 2 months. It was a pretty recent one. But he was talking about
Hold on. We need everybody who's coming in to please mute.
yeah, sorry. So anyway, I guess my question is he was talking about NLP and a bunch of different things, and I'm curious, like when it comes to NLP, is it kind of just like anything goes, like just kind of MSU make stuff up, and like if you can find a metaphor for something, then you can use it to accomplish some sort of result?
It's an amazingly vague question.
I mean, like in the sense of when I hear him talk, when you teach techniques, there's like a specific order to it. There's a specific structure generally.
Mhm.
But then
Yes.
when I hear Richard Bandler explain different things that he's done, it kind of sounds like yes, there's reasoning why he's doing it, but it's just sort of like he just kind of makes it up, and then it's like, oh well, that fits the storyline. Like he had a story of a guy that people came out of the TV and were following him around, and so he had the guy take a pencil and just erase them all.
Mhm.
And if he didn't want them to follow him around, he would just erase them. And then he was saying that that created neurological change
Mhm.
in the people. So, why does that create neurological change? And can you just kind of do whatever works if it fits into the kind of neurological system, I
Well, the
guess?
short answer to that question is, can you do whatever you want? The answer is, can you? Right, and that's the secret. Guys like Richard have been doing this a long time, but they're and it seems like what he's doing is literal like MSU magic, and to some degree it is. But there's a very specific strategy and a specific set of principles behind how he's MSUing it, so to speak. So there's a concept that really Richard was kind of the guy who pioneered this. Richard and Grinder, in that their idea was, and you'll see, if you ever go train with Richard, you'll hear him tell lots of stories. He'll talk about the guy who thought he was Jesus, and the guy who saw snakes, and all these other different stories that will both terrify you and fascinate you and make you wonder if he's full of shit all at the same time, right?
Right.
But one of the big principles that Richard came upon was this idea of stepping into a person's model of the world.
Mm,
So if someone believes that Martians or Smurfs or Keebler elves are coming out of their television, most psychotherapists, most psychologists, most therapists would try to convince that person that what they were doing was completely wrong, that their experience wasn't real, that it had no rational basis in fact. They would spend all their time trying to convince this person of the unreality of their delusion.
okay.
Richard said, well, wait a minute. What if I just made their delusion real? What if I just step into their model of the world and deal with them from inside of that model and lead them to a transition point? So, if you got someone coming out of your television, or people coming out of your television, What the mind can conceive of and believe of, it can create, right? The idea is name it, describe it, bring it to life. So in those cases, what Richard did was he said, okay, this is how they see the world. How can I make that more real? How can I create a shared real? How can I, to use a very modern metaphor, how can I log into their video game and change change it from within? And so what you're seeing many times is the ability, it's called the attribute we seek to develop in NLP and in good hypnotists as well. By the way, there's an old saying, there's no such thing as resistant clients, only inflexible hypnotists, right? Behavioral flexibility is one of the biggest secrets to being good at pretty much any form of altered state work and guiding people through it. But what we do is we look at their model of the world, we step into it and we say, okay, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to go. What changes do we need to make inside this world that gets us as close to that end result as possible? The other thing that Richard realized at some point in his work was that a lot of people's delusions aren't harmful. A lot of people's delusions and internal metaphors work for them. For example, Richard told a story once about a gentleman that he I don't know if it was in Europe, I don't know if it was in a park here in the States, but he came across this gentleman painting these beautiful landscape and architectural portraits. Like he would paint these super realistic, high definition pictures, and he would do it freehand. And Richard was big at that time. Richard was big on modeling. He wanted to know, how do people who are really, really good at something, how do they do that? And can I create a model that I can transfer to other people so they can learn to approximate the same level of result faster? So he had this mindset about, how do I create a model for how this person does it? And so he asked a bunch of questions to elicit that person's model of the world. And one of the things that the guy said was, yeah, when you're drawing the picture, you have to keep the string just taut enough so that there's no slack. And Richard's listening and taking us, what? He goes, yeah, when you suspend the hand over the building, you have to keep the string on the hand just tight enough so that as you trace the building, right, it makes the right movement. And Richard came up with, you mean you actually have a hand over the building holding a string and a pencil and it draws the picture and your hand follows that? And yeah. And so what you'll discover is that many times what people do in their heads to create these amazing results makes no rational, logical sense. But it operates the nervous system in a certain way that produces an amazing result. There are many, many people who are considered savants, or even if they're a bit on the autistic spectrum, who actually smell and taste colors, who hear numbers. Like when they experience numbers, they have a kinesthetic sensation of numbers, and they could do massive calculations in the blink of an eye, right? But their internal experiences are radically different from us. So the idea is when somebody is creating a result, it's either useful or it isn't. It's not good. It's not, you're not delusional or not delusional. You're either getting a result that's useful or it isn't. So Richard's whole idea is to step into their world. And it's not just Richard's idea. It started with Richard, I think, Richard and Grinder. But any really good influence person, especially from the NLP world, is going to be able to step out of themselves and go into that world and work with the building blocks of that person's reality to lead them out of it. That's how Richard managed to cure a guy of schizophrenia. He didn't try to convince the person that the voices and the things were not real. He went and he said, okay, assume they are. How do we fix it? Right? And he worked within that person's own system. And this goes back to a concept I've taught all of you for years now. What the nervous system creates, the nervous system accepts. The human nervous system never resists itself. And that's metaphorically speaking, that's the difference between a cloned organ and a transplanted one. Both can work. One has a hell of a lot more complications, though. A lot more chance of rejection and resistance down the line. And so anytime, and that's our whole approach in Planet David, is this idea of what is the nervous system doing to doesn't this sound familiar? What is the nervous system doing to create that problem? Because it's the problems are not what happened to you. The problems are the way you recorded the things that are happening to you, what you've been doing inside your head and your nervous system for the last umpteen years. That's been fucking you up. It's not the car that T-boned you that messed you up. It's the way you recorded the car T-boning you and the way you've been T-boning yourself, no pun intended, ever since. Right? And there's a way that your system does that. And if we can elicit how your system does it, and we can get the username and password to the level that controls that, then we can work within it and change it to whatever we want. Right? And that's what we've been doing in Planet David for however long it is we've been doing it, right? It's definitely become much more refined over the years, right? But when you see Richard's working with a very, very high level set of principles that look different every time he applies it because the variables are different. But it's the same formula. Right? So hopefully that answers your question. Next on our list is Laura.
And have I mentioned that I was T-boned by a car, or did you just?
You never mentioned it once, actually.
Okay.
That's just my psychic skills kicking in.
I don't know if I had mentioned that in the past at some point, but
nope.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Laura, you're up.
I had something, but now I can't remember what it was. So if I think of it, I'll circle back later.
No worries. Mr. Bob Paddock, talk to me.
First, a comment on the link. You have to leave the group, the Facebook group, and go back into the group to get the new link. Otherwise, you get the old link. That's why there's people not showing.
Okay, no worries. Moss told me he had posted everything, and apparently that simply wasn't the case. But either that or he did what he always does, which is post things through my Google Calendar, which never shows up in my Zoom account, which means I think there's no link created. So I create a brand new link, and then people go to one room while I'm in the other. We'll figure it out. Let's see here. I'm just trying to get everybody.
Also, the one he posted on Facebook in the Facebook group has PWD equals and a bunch of gobbledygook after it. The one you posted to YouTube does not. The YouTube link seems the one that's in the community post on YouTube seems to work, where the Facebook one is not working.
The one that I put in, or the one that
you put in Facebook, the one that you put in YouTube works. The one Moss put in does not, and the difference is one has PWD equals, and there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook at the end of that link. Anytime you see that, it's not going to work for a particular subset of the population.
Okay, thank you for that. I did post. I posted I reposted the exact link I did in YouTube, and pinned it. So maybe that's what Bob's talking about. If you log out and log back in, you'll get the new link.
Yeah, that's how I got in.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize for that. Sometimes things happen at the last minute. I'm just trying to get everybody's name on my list. Everybody wave hi to our YouTubers out there in YouTube land. Let me see here. I think I'm missing one person in the participants list. Who am I missing? Do I have two Daves? Oh no, there's Lawrence. All right. Okay. All right. Bob, did you have a question, or was that just your helpful tidbit for today?
No, I actually had a question.
Okay.
Years ago, I injured my shoulder and it healed up. Took a long time to heal up, and it was fine for several years. But I just recently had cataract surgery, and while I was under anesthesia, they did something to reactivate that injury. Any suggestions on magic to heal that shoulder injury? Years ago, I injured my shoulder and it healed up. Took a long time to heal up, and it was fine for several years. But I just recently had cataract surgery, and while I was under anesthesia, where's that coming from?
Hold on a second. I think
that injury.
The only thing I can think of is that somebody's either got their YouTube thing.
Injury. Years ago, I injured my shoulder and it healed up. took a long time to heal up. And it was fine for several years, but I just recently had cataract surgery. And while I was under anesthesia, where's that coming from?
Hold on a second. I think
That injury.
the only thing I can think of is that somebody's either got their YouTube thing.
Years ago, I injured my shoulder and it healed. Took a long time to heal up. And it was fine for several years, but I just recently had cataract surgery. And while I was under anesthesia, where's that coming from?
Hold on a second. I think
that injury.
the only thing I can think of is that somebody's either got their YouTube thing.
Years ago, I injured my shoulder and it healed.
What the hell?
I think I got it. We'll find out in a minute. I think somehow, some way, I have the YouTube chat stream. It said it was muted, but I clicked it on, clicked it back off, and it stopped. So I guess we'll find out. Anyway, so Bob, with regard to your shoulder, if something got activated, it's probably emotional. So I would start with the magic frame, spin it, and then color breathe it and see what happens. And if you want, work with somebody who like Moss or Heather or Maria, or let's see who else we got in the room that's qualified, or Marlene. Any of those guys they've been from Identity by Design through regression, so they should be able to help you with that.
Yeah, whatever happened to reactivate it happened while I was under anesthesia.
Well, that's what's weird, is it maybe it could be that they moved you a certain way. It could be that the state itself triggered something emotional. It could be some weird side effect of the anesthetic. Or on the outset, it could be that somebody said something during the surgery that your unconscious mind processed in a very specific way, and we just need to go in and clean it up.
Okay. And one related question for color breathing and spinning and so on, and throw in there the gray room for all four. Is there an optimum order for those four things?
We always start with magic frame first, because if there's any safety lessons connected to the issue, you're going to have to magic frame it at some point anyway. So you might as well just get that done first. After that, it's really dealer's choice, whatever feels right for you. My standard approach is to magic frame it, spin it, and then use color breathing for cleanup. And if I need to, very rarely, I'll do the metastating part where we step out, clean the energy body, the spirit body, and then step back in. But generally, my preferred way to do it, and there's no step. What's going on? Somebody have that, guys. You guys all need to be muted because some of your stuff's coming through and it's messing with our audio. Okay, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Anyway, so that's how I do it. I go with framing, spinning, and then breathing. But you could go from framing to breathing to spinning back to framing in any chain you want, any multiple times you want. And I just cycle through them until I've gotten complete resolution on the issue. It's not the fastest way to do it, although it can be sometimes. But it is the simplest, most wash, rinse, repeat approach. For your situation, you tend to be very cerebral. And so my intuition is that while I'm pretty sure you can do these things to yourself by yourself, I think you would get deeper results faster if you had somebody else guiding you through it.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to, hold on a second. Let me check, make sure my YouTubers are still with me. Okay. Some of the people in the chat are asking me to walk you through it and fix your shit so they can hijack your trance. All right, hold on a second. Let me see what I got here. Maria G, talk to me.
So this has been coming up a lot in some of my tarot cards. And so I
Okay.
got one. I don't know what to do with it.
Purba?
Yeah.
Purbas are used for energetic surgeries and expelling entities. They're spiritual weapons designed to pin spirits into place or sever their connections to the body. Think of it like a very martial magic wand or a lightsaber.
Okay. How do I use it?
Well, you probably need a little bit of training for that, sweetie. I might know a guy who's getting certified as a Buddhist Lama who might know a little bit about Purba work. In the meantime, if you get Sifu Johnson's books, Secrets of the Buddhist Mystic,
Okay.
most of the Purba work is in volume 2 of the 2-volume set. But I wouldn't recommend you jump to it. I would recommend you get the foundation training and body of light and all that other good stuff before you start working with Purbas and stuff like that.
Okay. I'll let somebody else go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that we're actually going through a lot of that stuff in our Buddhism training right now. And it's interesting that you're getting the inspiration to do that stuff. We might have to offer a Buddhist mysticism program in the near future, but I got to wait till I graduate from the program in March. I think is when the last day is. But anyway, we'll look for that in a couple of years. In the meantime, let's go to Susan. Miss Miller.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Okay. I have a pet skunk that lives under my front walkway. Oh, that's not the kind of talk you wanted. Anyway, but I did manifest the skunk, so be impressed. Not everybody thinks it's a good thing, but I like skunks. Anyway, if you were going to change your response to a particular circumstance, like if you wanted to install a different strategy, like NLP strategies, what is the process you generally would use?
First, you have to decide what you want instead. Make sure it's a good achievable outcome. Then you have to elicit the present state. In other words, what set of submodalities and VAK processes do you run to create that problem? Okay. What are the submodality changes, as well as the VAK sequences you're running for the solution, and then you have to switch them. You have to install them, the changes.
So you find something, for instance, that you respond the way you want to respond to more, and then go, okay, what's the VACOG for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just
if you've ever watched us do the submodality belief changes, here's how a hypnotist would do it. Think of something that you want to change. Point to where you feel it, reach out and touch it. Right? Let me just pin myself to the screen so people can see me instead of watching the back and forth.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Speaker. Let's go with gallery mode. Okay. So can everybody see me? Or are you seeing everybody?
You.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do, and anybody who wants to do this at home, you can do this, but it's really simple, right? If we were going to do this the NLP way, it would take 35 minutes to explain it to you and do it, but it's really simple. There's 5 categories of information that you have to audit your internal pictures for: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. That's it. Okay. So the first thing you do is you point to where you feel it, you reach out and touch it. This is the Planet David version. You bring up the picture of the thing you want to change. Inventory all the visual aspects of it. Is it moving or black and white? Is it color? Or is it color or black and white? Is it moving or still? Is it fuzzy or is it distinct? Is it 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional? Right? Are you seeing it through your own eyes, or are you seeing yourself in the picture? Those are all visual distinctions. And what you want to do is you want to catalog all the visual distinctions of that picture. Right? And you put that off to the side. Say, okay, what are all the auditory characteristics of this representation? What am I hearing? Are there sounds at all? Are the sounds loud? Are they quiet? Do they come and go? Are they tonalities? Are they rhythmic, right? What are all the different auditory attributes of that experience? And you want to catalog those. You do the same thing for the smelling and the tasting and the feeling aspects of that experience. You inventory each and every one of them, so you know exactly how you built that. Then you break state. You think about something random and neutral. And then you think about, or you access the state you want instead. And what do you do with that? You catalog the visuals. You catalog the auditories. You catalog the olfactory, the gustatory, and the kinesthetic. In other words, see, hear, smell, taste, feel. And you catalog all the different distinctions for that. Then you bring them up side by side and you compare them. And you make the problem match the solution. In other words, the visuals here are one way, the visuals here are another way. I'm going to turn the visuals of this into the visuals of that. Right? I'm going to use the same thing for the auditories, the same thing for the olfactory, the gustatories, yada, yada, yada. Right? Now, this is a very simple way. There are more complicated ways to do this. And if there's a lot of other stuff, you might have to add extra steps. But the basic idea is, let's say you have a fear, you want to turn it into power. So this is how I do the fearful state. This is how I do the brave state. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. I make the visuals of this match the visuals of that. I make the auditories of this match the auditories of that. I make the olfactories of this match the olfactories of that. I make the gustatories match this until everything is characterologically or attributionally the same. Not the content, but the way I've represented that content. And I shrink this picture down and I physically move it into the space where the positive resource is, and then I make it big. And you'll feel it engage. Right? That's the quick and dirty. Just bring the two pictures up, compare them, make the attributes of one match the attributes of the other, shrink the problem picture down, move it into the different filing cabinet, make it big. Right?
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Well, that's one way to do it. There's that one. The interesting thing about NLP is kind of like algebra. There's 5 or 6 ways to do anything. Right? But one of the things we see more often is you can do strategy work, which is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
That takes too fucking long, as far as I'm concerned, right? We can just, if we can do it with some modalities, we'll do it with some modalities.
Okay, because I was looking at the totes thing. There was a conversation, and then it got me thinking. I have a hard time getting to bed when I want to get to bed, but I'm like, okay, if I do this as a strategy, like in a sequence,
You could do that. You could create it. What you'd have to do is, and here's one of the distinctions that I make that a lot of times in classic NLP, they don't make it. And it's one of those things that theoretically shouldn't matter, but does, is the resource you're tapping into a remembered resource, or is it an imagined resource? Remembered resources have more neurological energy and amplitude than imagined ones, generally speaking. And remembered resources have the added benefit of rehearsal, practice, and your brain has accepted it as true on every level. Whereas with imagined resources, you have to do a lot, you have to finagle the submodalities and get a lot more repetitions in to get the same level of charge to the thing. So what you would want to do is you would want to elicit your strategy for staying awake. Like when I'm going to keep if I were going to, that's it, the way they say it in NLP is, if I were going to go on vacation and I needed you to fill in for me, and part of my job was to have insomnia, right? How would you teach me to have insomnia so I could replace you while you're gone? Right? And you'd have to really think about, okay, first I do this, then I do this, then this happens, then I do this, and then this happens. And you have to elicit that sequence. And then you'd have to look at, okay, when I fall asleep quick and I have a good night's sleep, how does that happen for me? And do the exact same thing.
And go back to a time when I was getting to bed at 9:30
and then try to recreate, and then do your best to recreate that strategy on demand to go to sleep. It's a little bit more complicated, even though the actual idea is the same as when we're doing submodalities. Make this picture look like that picture. There's a lot more moving parts to a strategy.
Okay.
So
I think it'd be worth trying first, the submodality.
As change work goes, I don't like strategies. If I'm going to do behavioral modeling or something like that, now I'm going to use strategies, because now I don't need an experience so much as I need a behavior or a set of skills. Right.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps.
I'll let you know in a couple of weeks.
All right.
We reconvene in the new year.
Yeah. This is, and by the way, whether you're doing submodalities or whether you're doing strategy elicitation, if you use, and this is something they don't teach you in classic NLP, if you apply the 6 dynamics of the unconscious response and you apply body-centered energetic psychotherapy principles to the NLP work, it gets exponentially faster and more powerful.
Okay? Yeah, I got a couple of things I need to frame, as someone has just pointed out to me who might be on this call.
They love you.
Yeah. And one of them may have been not being able to go to bed fast enough when I was a kid. So
okay.
Yeah, so there'll be some of that, but then we can do some VACOG. Someone.
Okay, let me just, we had a bunch of people jump in at the last minute, so I'm trying to get them on the list so I don't miss them.
I couldn't get them.
And Renee. And I think I got 16 on my list and 19 in the chat, so somebody got missed. James. I think that's, oh, and I got Ivy. I think I have 2 Renees. Do I have 2 Renees? No, I have 1. All right, well, if I don't call your name, you'll know who you are. JJ, Jazz G, talk to me.
Hey, I've got 2 questions on the energy body. Okay. Quick questions. One time I was doing the microcosmic orbit, and an idea came to me, why don't I do it, the microcosmic orbit, to the energy body instead of my physical body? So if we do Qigong's like energy work on our energy body, what happens then?
Well, what happens is, first of all, you can't do Qigong without involving your energy body. The difference is where is your consciousness? Where's your point of awareness and focus? So one of the things that we talk about a lot is a little technique we call the magnet and the ball bearing, right? Where I have this magnet floating outside of me, and the ball bearing is inside, and I use the magnet floating outside of me to pull the ball bearing around. When you shift your mind and your imagination to the magnet outside of you, you're connecting your physical body, your energy body, and your spirit body. And so as you move from the spirit, everything else follows that ball bearing, like the ball bearing following the magnet. So when we step out of ourselves, and we step out of our stuff, and we step out of ourselves, we're moving our point of focus and conscious awareness into the subtler realms of our being. And we're going meta to the experience, which gives us power, the power position over it. When we go meta to things and we create changes at this meta level and then reintegrate the bodies, it affects all of the different energy systems all the way into the physical body. So you get a fuller, greater degree of transformation than if you're just working in the physical body level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so we can actually do that instead of doing it just to the energy body. Go outside of the energy, but go outside of the spirit body and then do it there.
Yes, you can expand your awareness indefinitely. The model that we use when we're dealing on a holonomic level is this idea of a four level energy body. You have the soul, You have the spirit body, you have the energy body, and then you have the physical body. That's the model we use. Other systems have like 27 layers to the energy body, right? And they can palpate and pull information from each of those different layers. Remember this, when it comes to the mind, if you can conceive of it, name it, and describe it, you can create it. So when I'm out here in the Shen level, which is the mind, energy, and spirit and emotions, right? The moment I conceive of something, it's there. It's instantly created, right? So if I believe that there's 4 levels to my spirit body, all of a sudden I'll find 4 levels because the creation happens instantaneously. So you can get infinitely more complicated and intricate with your metaphors and your visualizations because the spirit has that quality of being able to create. And so you have to be careful, right? Because I like to keep things simple. Like if you go to like Barbara Brennan's energy healing school, she has like 12 different layers, I think. I don't even remember the last time I read the book. There's like 12 different layers to the energy body, right? And they work. Why? Because that's the model they use, right? We try to keep things as simple as humanly possible because I think people have more important things to do than learn 27 layers of an energy body when one will do.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of how we approach things. We try to keep it very, very simple. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And the second question is our mind in our physical body or is it in our energy body?
Yes.
It's always yes.
Everything is mind. The mind is gravity.
It's all over the place.
Meditate on that, and you will have an infinite number of revelations. The mind is gravity. Okay. Jody. Caribbean Beauty. Talk to me. What do you got?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, my camera or whatever is giving problems, but I'm pretty simple.
I heard that about you.
Sorry?
I heard that about you.
Don't believe the propaganda. It's all lies. All right. My question would be more aligned with the aspect of letting go after you've asked. Good, simple steps that or state of being that you can invoke to once you ask the letting go part. Because I do believe that that part is what kind of holds a lot of things away from coming in because you keep going back to it.
Yeah, I'll give you the simplest way to do it. It's almost cheap. Immediately distract yourself, right? Like do your manifestation and then go play a card game or get in an argument with somebody or anything that gets you completely focused on something else, even for a moment, will give you the space of time you need to let it go so that it has a chance of manifesting. Now, the longer you can maintain that lack of attachment, the better off you tend to be.
All right. And even like, okay, so I do the manifestation and let it go. And I go do something else to distract myself. Is it that every time it might pop up again, I just find something to distract myself in that moment?
You could, right? Until you develop the serenity or you start making submodality transformations. Hold on a second. I'm gonna mute everyone again because some people are not muted. And then I want you to unmute again, Jody. All right, unmute again, Joe. Jody, unmute thyself.
I'm trying.
That's what she said. Anyway. All right. So the other thing is you can do is, and again, this gets a little bit more NLP-ish.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm not even going to go there. You know how this is where we go back to utilizing the transderivational search process as well as energy-centered body-centered energy psychotherapy, a somatic search engine specifically. So there have been times in your life when you wanted to manifest something, you did the process and you successfully let it go and it manifested. True?
True.
And there's a place in your body where the feelings connected to that process are stored. True, not true?
True.
Where do you feel it? Point to it. Right, first impression. Now, if there were a picture floating in the space around you that represented that feeling and that process, a picture you could reach out and touch, where would you reach out and touch it? Trace the outline of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Very good. Now take the thing you want to manifest, shrink it down to the size of a postage stamp, move it into that spot, make it big, and forget about it. And think about what you had for breakfast yesterday. What just happened?
We all know what happened.
We all know what happened?
Yes. It worked.
How about that?
How about that? All right.
Is it really that stupid little diagram that I showed you at Identity by Design, or I think I showed it in NLP, the proprioceptive grid?
Mhm.
That stupid little diagram has all the answers.
Not so stupid after all.
Not so stupid after all.
All right. Well, I know what I'll be doing when this is over and tomorrow.
All right, very good. Let's see here. Yeah. Kim, you're up.
Hi, David.
Hey.
I'm just here to learn. I don't really have any questions today yet.
Just here for the beer, huh? All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nigel, Mr. Schizo.
That's me. I hear voices. So I don't have a lot, but I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
What do you find to be the best or most effective way to elicit or profile someone's emotional Achilles heel?
Someone's emotional Achilles heel?
Mm-hmm.
In what context?
Just in general. I was going through the rapid attraction stuff, and it occurred to me to just get good at that. I've also been going through Chase's profiling course.
All right. So I'm going to give you one politically incorrect version.
All right.
And then I'm going to refer you back to Chase's map of social needs and decision maps.
Okay.
And then underneath all that is criteria and values, emotional bonding. So there's a
Sure.
hierarchy to these things.
That's what I'm
So
asking.
remember that people's Achilles heel will always be the thing that they perceive they have the least of.
Right.
So if you're someone who's extremely creative, very dopaminergic, people might not take you seriously. So anything that allows them to be thought of as being taken seriously or being heard, seen, understood will probably get their attention.
Okay.
People who are very attractive are often don't think of themselves they think of themselves as being taken as getting by on their looks, and they want to be seen as intelligent.
Right.
And so that will often be their Achilles heel. Right? With a side order of not being taken seriously, because a lot of people think people who are attractive and are getting by on their looks are just not worth time, right? But most of the time, attractive people want to be seen as intelligent. Intelligent people want to be seen as attractive. Creative people want to be taken seriously. From an attraction, dating, romance perspective, that's what I see most often. If you're going to target flattery, things of that nature, that's the simplest, quickest, dirtiest, easiest way to do it. If you have a little bit more profiling chops, okay, then you can look at the 6 needs, right? Acceptance, approval, intelligence.
What I've been looking at. So,
and then what you want to do is you want to set up a PANDA process: positive association, negative dissociation algorithm. You want to set up a positive identity for them to move forward towards, and a negative identity for them to move away from. And
yeah, I've gotten really good at Panda. That one's fun.
Yeah.
And then any suggestions on practicing confusion?
Make a list of confusion statements that come easy for you and overuse them.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you.
And vein, the main vein is here.
Yo, so let's see. Ask me any question. My question is well, let me just say it and then I guess we'll unravel it into questions. First of all, I understand that in order to do these practices efficiently, we have to cultivate the body and the mind in such a way to where when we start to emanate these powers, it 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 goes across well. In order to do that, we need a foundation. So how important, I want to, this may be my conversation every time, because I want everyone that is here and everyone that will come on to always understand how important it is to get a foundation into these practices. Many times what I have noticed in our field is that people want to jump into the woo-woo. They want to jump into the deep, right? But it could actually make your nervous system short circuit because it isn't cultivated yet. So why is it important to have a foundation? That would be my question.
Because without a root, you're going to get blown away. It's very, very simple. You're dealing with forces that can only manifest to the degree that they have something to hold on to. So one of the problems that we have is that, you ever hear the expression, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, right? And that's kind of what's happening is we don't want to pay the price of becoming powerful. And so when you try to bring in forces that you can't ground and you can't hold on to, those forces will play havoc with your system. That's why we like to say a lot of people who don't have this understanding of purification and ascension and enlightenment, they don't have these three phases to their training. They often become so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good. Why? Because all their upper centers are super open, but they're basically, they're not the eye of the storm, they're lost in the storm. And so there's this chaos that goes on. And the other thing is that a lot of people who come in, they have these intuitive and spiritual gifts, but they don't have control over them. The idea behind the cultivation process is to activate your birthright and these spiritual gifts through a controlled series of alchemical processes. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to stand in line. They don't want to do the work that gives them full control. They just want to have the power. And power is the last thing that I teach, except when I'm teaching application. Because if you have an application, then you'll develop enough power to do that application, but it won't damage you. So when we talk about foundations, you need to understand why you do what you do. You have to have practices that allow you to safely do it, and you have to have benchmarks that allow you to measure where you're going. And one of my biggest pet peeves about the Asian systems is that a lot of times they'll give you a practice and then say, now go practice, come back when you come back and tell me when something happens. And you'll come back and they'll ask you what's going on, and they're waiting for you to say a certain thing. When you say a certain thing, they'll know you've had a certain manifestation, which means you've been doing the work, which means you're ready for the next level. Right? And they won't teach you the next thing until you've gotten that manifestation. Then other people go to the other way completely, and they say, do this until this starts to happen, and then do this. And so what happens is suggestion takes over. The person thinks they're having the manifestation when they're not, and they're jumping the order of practice. Right? Systems are designed to slow people down for their safety, and unfortunately, in some of these cultures, there's a saying called keeping the rice bowl filled, which is if it takes 3 years to get from point A to point B or point Z, they'll teach it to you over 30 years. Right? Why? Because the longer you're coming to classes, the more you're paying the rent. So there's all kinds of There's all kinds of buyer beware, caveat emptor kind of processes out there. At the end of the day, I take a word from Buddha's playbook. Trust nothing without testing it. Don't trust something because you read it in a book. Don't trust something because somebody told you. Don't trust the system just because it's old. Test everything to see if it works for you. If it works, keep it and use it. If it doesn't, move on. But there's a lot of people who will go and they want to learn how to do something. They'll buy a book. They'll read. We had this discussion the other day when we were talking about Tibetan Book of the Dead, and we were talking about how you were talking about how there are certain practices for dealing with spirits. And I said, yes, but that book is for shamans. And if you don't have shamanistic training, you shouldn't be playing with spirits. Right? And that's the idea.
Yeah, and then I remembered, oh my God, I am a shaman.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for that, because that was a correction that that's a correction.
Yeah.
We cannot these are not experiments.
Yeah. The spirit world, once you get their attention, it's kind of hard to not get their attention anymore, right? And so you have to be really careful with what you're doing. But a lot of people just think of it as entertainment or escapism, right? They're running towards spirit to try to become powerful, but when they see what the price of power actually is, they start looking for an easier way, right? Because nothing is free. Even the manifestation stuff, where one of the biggest problems we have with people who are into law of attraction and manifestation and things like that is a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are coming at this as a get something for nothing approach. And it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. It becomes, you get a bigger and bigger return on your investment the more you do the work. But if you're just relying on, put this money plant in this corner of your house and wait for the millions to roll in, that's not how it works, right? You got to earn it, right? And what's the difference between somebody like me or you who are trained in these things, putting a money object in a corner and it's something manifesting, versus somebody else doing it and not manifesting? It's the work we've put in. It's the cultivation and the connections and the rapport that we've made that allows us to access these. And I'm not special. You're not special. We've just done the work. Every single person on this call, every single person watching this through YouTube has it's their birthright to be able to manifest and walk their golden path. The question becomes, are they willing to do what it takes to be that person? Right? And we live in a culture that is indoctrinating us that there's always a faster, better way, right? And that we're never enough. And so we're always looking outside of ourselves for a lot of these answers. And most of the work that we need to become what we're truly capable of becoming is inside of us. So we need teachers who can show us how to look inside and deal with what we find. That never goes away. But once we've made that transition, we have access to so much information and so much guidance and so much wisdom. It's almost like the entire universe becomes your teacher. Everywhere you look, you see the principles of manifestation and creation and transformation in action. And it's really amazing. It's like, I never asked this question, but I'm going to ask it just to the room. I'm going to go to gallery mode really quick. I call it Brady Bunch mode. How many people here came into Planet David as to learn how to persuade and influence people better, and then stayed for something else? Okay, here's my question. Compared to where you were when you were learning the influence techniques, how much of it do you actually have to use now? Almost none of it, I'm guessing. How does that fucking work? How do you come in knowing nothing? You learn all these techniques, you start applying the techniques, and then a year, 2 years later, you barely use any of them because you don't need them. Because you've evolved. your nervous system has learned how to interface with quantum reality at a whole new level. Because of the drills, because of the exercises, you send an intention out to the universe, and all of a sudden the whole universe starts shifting before you even realize it. And then when you speak the words, the circuit gets closed and the manifestation happens. But you didn't start there. Or did you? You just weren't aware of it. So one of the interesting things, and this is why I bring this up, is because if I use more than the echo technique at any given moment, I'm doing a lot, right? It's one of those things. As your nervous system evolves, you don't need the physical techniques of persuasion as much, because your magic has expanded. See, the less evolved you are, the more techniques you need. Right? And that's where we start to evolve into what is commonly referred to as empty-handed magic, where you don't need a purba. You don't need a magic wand. You just wave your hand or you send a thought, and all of a sudden reality shifts and things happen. You use the tools until you surpass the tools, and you become the tool. Right? Sifu Johnson, who I learned how to change alcohol through sound from, told me that he was working with a master in China who was a master of talismans, fu work. And he was teaching Sifu Johnson about talismans. And Sifu says, well, how often do you use this? So I don't use those. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, I've been doing this so long, I am the talisman. Right? Because when you're creating a talisman, you're connecting to source, you're pulling down a specific energetic thought form and intelligence, and you're passing it through your system. Well, in order for that energy to pass through you, you have to have rapport with it. To have rapport with it, you have to match it, which means you have to become it. So each time you pass that through you, you become more like the thing you're channeling. Until finally, there's very little difference between you and it. It's NLP report taken to a transpersonal level. Only they call it deity magic. Right? Or fu magic, or whatever you want. It's the same thing. It's all the same. Right? And that's where this whole idea of doing by not doing comes from. Where all of a sudden we're doing less and less and less and getting more and more and more. Meditate on it, think about it, do what you will with it. Right? Anyway, I never asked the question, but I suspected it was true that the longer you guys are doing this stuff, the less of it you need. Right? So hopefully that helps people. Let's see here. Vane, did I answer your question?
You absolutely did. You answered my question. Thank you.
You asked another question in the chat about a quote.
Yes, the quote, I've been quoting it since I left. That the mind is gravity, and positive thoughts make you float, negative thoughts make you sink. By who? Because I want to say it with integrity.
I heard it. I'll give you the exact lineage I got it from. I heard it from one of my students named Bernie Dittrich, who learned it from a guy named Max Christensen.
Max Christensen.
Who is the creator of the Kunlun Negong system.
Okay. I got to write all that down because it's Max.
Max is a spiritual bad boy. You got to watch out. He bills himself as an alchemist, not a priest, even though he's got many priest degrees. He's a treasure hunter.
Max, give me that again, Max.
Christensen.
Okay. And
his book is called Kunlun Negong, I think.
What tradition?
Oh, he's got many. Snake Clan, Mopai.
The one that he got it from, the one that he said it from.
I don't know where he got that saying from, but he's also a Buddhist Lama in the Padmasambhava tradition.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And Lawrence, you're up.
No questions, just here to learn.
All right. Hold on a second. Marlene, I think you had a question you posted in the chat. Are you still here? Let me see. Do you have suggestions which one of your courses I'll benefit the most from? Well, unfortunately, you're not here, Marlene. So I don't know what you want to be able to do. People ask me about what course they should take all the time. And I always answer their question with a question. That depends on what you want to accomplish, right? All of our courses are very application specific. So the more we know about what you want to do, the better a recommendation we can make for you. So I don't know if Marlene's still out there, but if she can post a little bit more targeted question, I can give her a more targeted answer. Lady Holly of Bigelow, talk to me.
Okay, see if I can find a way to phrase this. So I've been diagnosed with inattentive ADD. And I keep trying to, huh?
Inattentive ADD.
Yeah, it's a form of ADHD, basically.
Okay.
And I've been trying to clear it, and basically the answer I keep getting is the problem is, at least what the universe is trying to teach me is that I should stop trying to change myself to meet other people's expectations and start having healthier boundaries with other people. And anyway, so my question is, there's a certain number of people who seem to think that certain things I can't do are choices, and they get really mad at me when I don't do them. They take it personally. They call me evil. They call me lazy. Everything under the sun. And so my question is, how can I quickly, and I'm guessing it's probably criterion values, but if there's like a facial thing I can read, whatever, how can I quickly identify the people who are going to be the most judgmental? And then second, once I identify those people, for some reason they come at me, they target me with a vengeance, how can I protect myself from those people once I identify who they are? If that makes sense.
The people that target you are most likely going to be very metallic and very wood. So first of all.
Okay.
Second of all, you want to look for patterns of behavior. Watch how they talk about others.
So how do I bring those conversations up quickly?
How do you bring those conversations up quickly? They'll usually volunteer it. But you can always start with elicitation, where you tell a story about somebody and you see what they do with it. So I would use Chase's elicitation protocols.
Okay. I'm gonna have to think about that. I want to do it in a way that they don't figure out who I am from the story, if that makes sense. I'm struggling with that part.
Figure out who you are from the story?
Well, I don't want, how do I put this in words? The only way I could think to elicit it is to tell them stories about people who are like me, maybe. And do I pretend I'm judgmental about them when I'm telling the story? Do I ask them, I don't want them to know that I'm not judgmental of that behavior, because that alone is enough for them to start targeting me.
3 magic questions. Do a variation of 3 magic questions in which and Andrew just popped that in there. And in this case, what you want to do is you want to ask them about things that they find annoying or they don't approve of. And you would start by talking about things you don't approve of and see what they say and how they say it. Because the way they say those things about other people is the way they're going to say things about you.
Is there a way to tell them that without sharing what I don't approve of? Because that's what I'm afraid they're going to get mad about, is what I don't approve of as well.
You would have to find analogs or things that are very, very similar and then extrapolate from there.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're sounding a lot more like a social engineer than anything else there, Halls.
I don't know any other way to approach this.
Okay.
But if you have another way, I'm open to it.
Well, again, I don't know your lifestyle, and I don't know what you're dealing with. So, I don't know the people. Right? I could tell, if I could observe the people, I could tell you more. But I only have your side of the story and your data. So I give you what I can.
Fair. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Ivy, talk to me.
One second. I got a lot of notes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of spitfire and see what they all have in common.
Say that again.
I'm gonna kind of spitfire and see what all they have in common.
What your audio is kind of messed up. All I heard was have in common. I didn't catch anything else.
I'm stepping outside.
Okay. All right.
1 second. Sorry.
While she's stepping outside, let's go ahead and go to Tom. Mr. Sullivan.
Hey David, how you doing? I actually don't have any particular questions, just kind of hanging out.
All right. Let's go back to Ivy. You back with us, Ivy?
Yes, thank you. It's cold outside. Okay. So one of them is feeling like I'm talking to someone who can't think of any other way of thinking at all and just shuts me down fully is really, really exhausting. But I can't help but bring it up because it bothers me so much. And that's been something I've been recently doing to the point where I lost my voice because I had to live up to their expectations and how they wanted me to parent. And that's just, I'm just going to go spitfire real quick. Finding my partner annoying and pushing them away a lot, even though at the end of the day, they're the only person there for me. Affection doesn't make me feel it'll work, even though they're being loving and giving. I still want to date the other person I was with before them. Talking about it is the only thing that made me think it wouldn't, like, talking about it is the only thing that changed my mind on it not re-manifesting. I wanted security in the meantime. So burnt out from the demands of other people. So just, I guess the impression changing is a lot, feeling like it's a constant war. So, and then two things real quick. My entire life is so different from how it was starting this January. It's completely flipped on its head. And also trying not to beat myself up. Usually it's the self-worth thing, but I'm wondering if there's something else in it at this point because it's not like I'm trying to, stand up, even though this person's like, you could get kicked out if you speak up. These are two separate things. And then the whole thing of being attached to the other person is truly giving them love for the first time, even though I was a hopeless romantic, and then completely just falling in love, even though I thought that was completely gone. So I don't know what any of these have.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What do you want to change specifically?
My acceptance, I guess, of help at this.
Your acceptance of how you got this way?
No, my acceptance of help because that's I deserve the help. I deserve the affection. I don't think it's always rooted in the whole I don't believe I deserve love because of how I was treated and abused. But I feel like there's more to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
all right, so let's start with that. As long as you feel you don't deserve love and you're not worthy of it, you're going to tolerate whatever shit people throw at you. So the first thing that has to happen is you need to work on yourself, right? To do that, it may be worth your while to reach out to, let's see here. Well, we got Bob, we got Susan, Julie's here, Holly. People who are Maria is probably a really good one to work with. Christine, Tom. These are all people who have been through a good chunk of our therapeutic training and may be able to guide you through some processes that allow you to discover how worthy you truly are. And everything has to start there. And the reason for that is because if you don't have that sense of deservingness and that internal self-worth, any resistance or any fight that you put up will cave if you meet significant amounts of pushback. So we need to go on.
Even though I deserve that love, I still feel like I don't have any other options, or I feel like it's a safe route. I feel like I'm not actually compatible with my partner and I don't like them half the time, my brain splits. Like, yes, I can accept
Exactly.
that they're
But
that,
you're-
but I believe
yeah.
that they deserve someone
Ivy,
better and that
you're spiraling.
Mhm.
Stop.
yes.
That's the low self-esteem and the fear of loneliness talking. I'm gonna give you. Are you familiar with a guy named Chris Voss?
I'm taking notes. No.
Okay, Chris Voss was the lead negotiator for the FBI, hostage negotiator. He wrote a book when he retired called "Never Split the Difference." And what he said in that book about deals is this: no deal is better than a bad deal. By law of analogy, by way of analogy, no relationship is better than a bad relationship. Okay? If you're relying on somebody to complete you or to have somebody to turn to, you're turning to the wrong people. So the first thing that has to happen is you have to heal. And you have to realize your own value.
Being completely burnt out emotionally, no matter what I do, because I've already given it to so many other people. I think I should work on that because I can't even give any emotion or affection to my current partner. And I think that's the question is, how do I work with being completely emotionally just unable to even be in a relationship, which is I've never had in my life.
And that's what you want?
To I don't know. I feel like I can give the emotion easier to the other person that my brain's like about versus the person who's like giving me love and all that.
Okay, what is it you actually want, Ivy?
To feel like the other person is me. Like I wrote it down. I don't feel like they would ever understand my love coming from a point from how deeply traumatized I've always been and what I went through versus what they did, which my partner hasn't gone through anything compared to me. But it's impacted them, but I feel like the other person deserves it more. They're also really attractive. I'm a little shy.
So it sounds to me like you're in, and again, your audio is not the best, so I'm having a little bit of trouble following the conversation. My question for you is: there's two people that you're either physically involved with, or one is physical and the other is someone you want instead. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
So why are you staying with the person? Why are you staying with the person you don't want?
Currently, it's long distance and it's also security, but also they make sure that my needs are met and they put up with my splits and they're understanding and it feels like they won't abandon me at the end of the day where I have been abandoned by everyone else. And that's very nice and secure for the person who doesn't want to admit that.
Okay. So it seems to me like you're in a comfort zone where you want to change, but you don't want to give up what you have in order to change.
The whole get rid of one thing to open another door kind of thing, but then I still got absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, here's what I would do. I would get the Soulmate Secrets course and go through that life values inventory that we teach there and decide which things you want, which things you don't, what's more important to you, and then start bucket listing all the things you want to change by order of importance to least importance, and then flip the script and start with the things that are least important and work through them using the transformational triad until you're clear enough that you feel strong enough to act on the things you know are right for you.
I also feel like, and this has been always my issue, is side of the relationship that I am in, which this person meets all my needs and all my intricacies. I just feel like they don't deserve me being so nitpicky. I don't feel like anyone else can, and that's always how I feel when I'm in relationships. I don't feel like anyone else can meet my needs until I meet someone I'm like, oh my God, you exist, or something that happened. So it is comfort for safety sakes at that point.
Usually. Again, you have to decide when you feel strong enough and when you're worthy to make a change. Until you decide to change, nothing else is going to. So I gave you my recommendations. Grab the Soulmate Secrets, use the life values inventory, use your bucket listing, organize your stuff, deal with it using the transformational triad. And if you need extra help, reach out to one of us, right? Either through our, you know, call our office and set up a consultation. You can set up working with some of the people who are here in the chat. Christine is available. Susan's available. There's a bunch of people, and you can work out whatever compensation or deal you want to work with them. But that's my recommendation for you, right? Nothing's going to change until you do. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Renee, you're up. Andrew says 10 on that course. The life values inventory is so great. Soulmates is worth it. Call Moss for that one for sure. Thank you.
Were you calling me?
No, I'm just reading what Andrew wrote in the chat.
I thought you said Renee, you're up.
I did call on you. You're up.
Okay. Me? Okay. I had a couple questions. One, I was doing some healing work and I found some stuff from like 9 months old, 1 year to 2 years old. And first I thought it could be on the video that I was listening to. It was alpha beats in the background. Twice it happened, but then it happened on one of your videos too. I was watching. I heard a baby laughing. Is that like me connecting with that younger version of me? Like they're thanking me, they're happy, or when I'm healing that stuff?
What's your first impression tell you?
That was my first impression, but it just seems so weird.
Then that's probably right.
That I actually heard a little me laughing like they were happy again.
Unconscious mind always answers first, always answers honestly, always feels like you're making it up, always have an urge to. Does that sound familiar? Does that match your experience?
It does. It just seems so weird. And my other question was, the last thing you taught us on the mastermind, where we were doing the rocking up and down with the hands, pumping the hands. When we're doing that to bring the energy up, when we fill up the Earth Star, are we bringing the energy up through us from the Earth Star, or I know you said something about taking your mind back down to the Earth and then back to your, I think your lower Dantier area. So when we're pumping and imagining that energy coming up, are we imagining every time it's coming up from the Earth itself again, or is it coming up from the Earth Star?
Okay, so when you imagine connecting to the Earth, you're sending your mind down into that level, which is creating a conduit. And then as you root your mind into that lower area, you're passing through your Earth Star into the core of the Earth and the spiritual core of the Earth and the Malchut of the different dimensions. So your mind can go there. That creates the conduit, the pipe, if you will, that the Earth energy is going to travel up through your Earth Star into your feet, into your lower Dantian, and up out into your field.
But when we're doing the pumping, we're going back and forth, right?
What's that?
When we're doing the pumping, like you showed us at the end, we're doing it from the Earth up to us back and forth, right? To the lower before we do the fountain part.
Yep.
For like quite a few times.
Yeah, have you ever seen those old mechanical pumps? You ever seen those old mechanical pumps?
Is it coming up from the Earth again, or Earth Star when we're continuing the pumping, the energy when it's coming back up again?
The Earth Star is in the Earth.
I thought the Earth Star was like below the feet, but before the actual center of the Earth.
It's 18 inches or more below your feet.
Okay.
Right? But it's your direct connection to the Earth.
Right, but you were saying for us to fill up that Earth Star with gold energy. So I guess I'm confused. It's like, so when I'm pumping, is my mind and the energy going all the way back to the center of the actual Earth, or is it just going down to the Earth Star and coming back up?
I would do whatever's comfortable. I've done it both ways. It works.
Okay, so there's not a real big deal in between the two.
No, but just figure out which visualization. And I've done different visualizations on different days, and they've both worked, right? And I follow a very intuitive approach. I do what feels right because I have enough confidence and certainty in my system to know when things are right. So I'm not limited by system constraints. But if you haven't been doing this 20, 30, 40 years, you should probably stick to as close to the way you were taught as possible until you don't need to do that anymore.
Okay. So since I've been doing this stuff, I manifested over $1,800 to fix my car.
Congratulations.
I know. Thank you.
Round of
Yeah,
applause
I
for
was pretty
Renee.
excited. Yep.
Well done.
Yep. I'm a believer. I don't give up. And I was like, you know what? I'm just leaving it out there. The universe knows what I need, and I'll just wait for it to come. And it
Funny
happened
how
pretty
that
rapid.
works.
Like you said, things started happening fast.
Yes, they do. It's very
So
bizarre,
yeah.
right? And what's interesting a lot of time, and again, you will, anybody listening to this will avoid this as a suggestion. The times it'll slow down is when the times when you try to speed it up.
Yeah.
Or when you
That's
get
what
the
I found
sense
when I
of,
focused too much on it.
yep,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for that.
you're very
It's
welcome.
been really cool. I've been enjoying it. But
Just gets
that's
better.
really cool.
There
That
will
was
be
all I
challenges. You will be challenged over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
Can you do what you've been doing at different levels of intensity? Right?
Yeah.
So
It's kind
just
of happening
understand that
in
they're
a
tests.
relationship
That's all they
too.
are.
Yeah. It's kind of happening in a relationship too. I was trying to force it,
Mhm.
make it go faster. And I just kind of backed away, and it's like, I'm just going to allow it to come to me.
There you
And
go.
that's turning around too for me. So,
Yep.
so that's really cool. So I'm
Excellent.
excited.
Well done. Keep going.
Yeah. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. All right, let's go to James.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm not going to be asking many questions today. I'm just here to listen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll go on then. If something comes up, let us know. Damien, Big D from the southern part of the equator, Chile thing. What do you got for me, homie?
No, you listen to me. Yeah, perfectly. Let me figure out something. Yeah, I text to you better because my English, you know.
Every time I listen to you speak, I just hear Ricardo Montalban going, "Rich Corinthian leather."
Okay.
All right, let me see what you got here. Hold on. Oh, okay. We got a lot from the D-man. So, question one. I heard that the level of Jan Zhang is something that clearly distinguishes the experienced and the novice. Some tips that we won't find anywhere else. Haha. Lots of tips. It's in your hands. Two, I've been practicing a lot of fire and water Qigong plus the 1 through 10 protocol. Some heaven and earth, I feel great, but I don't know if practicing 2 of the 5 elements can lead to something undesirable. Can you talk about balance in practice? It's best to do all 5 elements. But what happens a lot of times is there will be certain exercises that you don't want to do. Like you have a lot of fun with the fire exercise, but you don't want to do metal, right? Or you want to do water, but you don't want to do earth, right? It's the elements you don't want to do that are usually the ones you need the most, right? It's just one of those. And so I recommend, again, pay attention to the proportions and the feeling you have either towards or away from as you're going through these exercises. And when you find those, don't stop your practice, but at the end of your practice, make a note of where in your body you had those feelings and go and fix them using the transformational triad. Because that'll save you later on from having an abreaction during one of the Qigong exercises later on, right? The idea behind a lot of Qigong alchemical and transformational processes, especially at the beginning stages, is all purification. And it's purification through provocation. So we start doing the lung exercise. Next thing you know, you're coughing and hacking and crying and grieving over your dog that died when you were 12 and you had no idea it was fucking in there. Why? Because you provoked the lung energy and the tissues started releasing all the stuff that you hadn't fully processed. You start doing the fire exercise, and the next thing you know, you're raging about somebody who broke your heart, when you were 16, right? And you've had 27 girlfriends since then, but that one's the one that just you never quite got over, right? So a lot of these exercises, as the system starts to heal, it's gonna release toxified emotions, toxified patterns that have emotions and memories embedded within them. And if you don't have the techniques we have, you've got to do it through the cathartic way. You've got to just let it bubble out. Whereas if we're doing fire exercise and we start having those flashes of memory, we can make note of those memories, put a pin in them, and then come back, journal on it, do the transformational triad, clear it. And then when we go back and do our fire exercise, that stuff won't come up, or new stuff will come up, right? There's many different, as far as your question about standing, there are so many different, I have at least 20 or 30 different variations in my lexicon on Zhenjiang. Everything from classic Yichuan to some very, very lost Taoist Qigong traditions, which are all standing, right? And it's everything from standing with your hands up here to standing in a squatting position with your hands up here and just standing for hours. It's insane. And what some of these older Qigong systems emphasize is very different from what modern Qigong systems are teaching. So your Zhenjiang is something that there's probably as many levels to it as there are perceptions that you can have. But a lot of it is based on what are you trying to do, right? If you're practicing for martial reasons, then your stances need to be held longer and deeper, okay? Because they are the extreme. They're designed to be used in combat, so they demand a higher level of physical attribute, right? Which comes along with that, though, comes more juice for the other applications, healing and metaphysics and things of that nature. There is no real difference between
all the same.
Well, again, there is one difference that makes a difference, and that's intensity. In martial applications, they tend to try and compress the training cycle. So, like in martial Qigong, they'll go through this beating and drumming process, and bone marrow changing and washing and stuff like that, where you go 100 days and you can't have sex, and you have to cultivate all your sexual energy. And the whole process is designed to be done in 100 days, right? Because it's for martial artists. And they want to light that fire and just have it raging through the system as quickly as possible. You can do the same thing over 3 years, just taking it slow, but you still got to do the work, right? So you can do the martial version, which is 100 days of boot camp level lifestyle with no sex or no ejaculation, at least. Or you can do 2 to 3 year process where you're doing at least an hour a day of training, right? And it is a little bit more gentle on the body. Or you can take 30 years to do it, right? And just incremental process. So we all want it today, but most of us aren't willing to pay that price, right? And so you need to be willing to do what it takes, right? And then have a teacher who can actually take you through those steps rather than talk to you about it. So, but hopefully that answers your questions. Knowing so many models and ways of outlining Kabbalah, face reading needs, 5 elements, etc. How do you approach this more systematically, or just pick one and master it? I start with where everything meets, and that's in the human nervous system. It doesn't matter if you're reading faces. It doesn't matter if you're doing neurolinguistic programming. It doesn't matter if you're doing Qigong. It doesn't matter if you're doing conversational hypnosis or law of attraction. They all pass through the autonomic nervous system in order to happen. So I start with mastering the dynamics of that aspect of the human being. And once you master that, you're basically control the crossroads where everything comes together and has to pass. And so we look at the somatic search engine. We look at the visual auditory the VACOG language, or we call primary encoding system, which is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, linking interoception with exteroception. The whole point to where you feel it reach out, that's where you start. Understanding that you're nothing but light interacting with other light. And some of that light has a higher frequency, some of it has a denser frequency, but it's either stepping it up or stepping it down. And everything looks different based on its density and angle of refraction. How do you reprogram the light? You change the frequencies. How do you reprogram the frequencies? You change the body feeling. How do you change the body feeling? You change the direction, the angle, the color. You go back to the basic elements of it, and everything changes and transforms from there, right? And it's a feedback loop. So when you change it one way, the body will look different. Change it to another way, the body will look different. And that's how everything starts to come together. But it's all about understanding the dynamics of the autonomic nervous system and subjective human experience, which is everything. All objective human experience begins or ends, sometimes both, with subjective human experience. Master that, and you're on your way. Everything else is just repetition, right? And asking the right questions. Does that help? Okay. And let's go to Andrew.
One more.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more.
Do you still recommending working into a mental space work? You know, the 4 rooms, all this stuff.
4 rooms?
Yeah, the lab, the desk.
Oh, you're talking about Chase's
Yeah, this stuff.
I still do it. My daughter uses it a lot. I do other constructs because I don't resonate quite as much with the high tech imagery as Chase does.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I recommend is you use the 4 or 5 room model that he teaches, but you make it your rooms. Like if you're someone who's like, you know, using Vane as an example, Vane has a strong tantric Tibetan Buddhist energy. And so putting him in a computer room might not be the metaphor that works, but I put him in a stupa with you know, Buddhist altar and all these iconography that might resonate completely with him, and he'll get the same result from that you might by inputting information into a computer, right? If you don't have a preference, then use the metaphors that you deal with every day, because those are the things your brain understands the best, right? So, but all constructs, again, every construct works for somebody. Not every construct works for everybody. So you have to experiment and find out what resonates with you. Okay.
Thank you, man. Rock and roll.
All right, Andrew, you're up.
Yeah, I've got a question, but I've also got a nagging voice in my head saying to leave the question with my subconscious and let it answer it rather than voice it. So
with that,
I'm gonna bow out. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Julie, you're up.
Hi.
Hey.
The technique you were talking about with Renee, was that in the most recent video?
I think it was probably either in a mastermind or the last AMA.
The mastermind.
Yeah, I would message Renee directly and find out where it was.
Okay, and then the other thing, do you have a venue yet for Killer Influence?
Right now, we're either going to be at the Courtyard Marriott in Sorrento Valley, where we've had the last 2 or 3 classes. If the class goes over 20, then we'll move it to the Country Inn and Suites in San Diego. They're not too far from each other. They're literally like half a block.
Okay, right. So just hold off on booking any.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. That's it.
Okay. All right. We have 34 minutes left. Top of the order, Dave. You got a question? Or actually, Nigel's got his hand up. Go ahead, Nigel.
Yeah. Shit. Hi. Fuck. Shit. So I wanted to ask about where can I find the schedule for the 2025 live trainings?
It should be the first 4 or 5 months should be on nlppower.com/events.
Right. And some months ago, you brought up a practice, I think, in your maybe Buddhist training about how to get an idea of how you're going to die.
I did that?
Briefly.
I don't think so. That's not something I would teach.
I don't think it was something you were teaching. I think it was something that you had maybe gone through in a training of your own. But I was curious about it.
I don't recall anything to that effect.
All right. Well, no worries then. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Who else? Our open floor. Who's got questions? You got questions? Raise your hand. Yeah. Christine, go ahead. Christine?
Yes.
You have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, I always thought that coming up the back and going down the front was, I thought that was the water path.
Nope.
And referred to it now as the fire path. But
I've always referred to it as the fire path, unless I misspoke.
What's the other one coming up the front, going down the back?
Going up the back and down the front is the fire path. Going up the front and down the back is the water path.
Oh, okay. Well, then somehow I got them totally messed up, or because we come up the back and down the front where we're doing the when we're doing the stuff for the in the 10 so that's the fire path.
Yeah, in most of the in 99.99%, in fact, pretty much everything I've taught, with the exception of maybe some of the things in the mega group, I've never taught anybody anything to do with the water path. Because based on what I was taught, that's the last thing you want to do.
Okay, so the fire path stay with that and not mess with the water path until you got to a level where you could handle it.
More or less. The reason, and again, because the minute I say it, people are going to rush out and do it.
No, I'm not.
The fire path is used for burning away stagnant emotions. We start cycling the fire path, we start burning and processing alchemically the emotional baggage. Okay. But when we want to start developing spiritual powers and abilities, we want to reverse that and start cycling the water path. The water path is where all of your psychic abilities, all your spiritual attributes start to come online. The problem is if you've got too much emotional toxicity, it's going to create problems for you. Right? You're going to start opening psychic awareness and having not knowing what's delusion and what's a spirit and all this other shit. So we always go through the alchemical purification training, and we teach you all the things you need to know and how to open all the different circuits before we start opening up those psychic senses, right? So if you go to study with guys like Max Christensen, Max is pure water path, but you will take years with Max because he will show you, you'll go to a seminar with Max, he'll show you 3 exercises and you won't see him again for a year or 2 years, right? Because you'll have to work on that, right? And you'll be going through all kinds of purgings and purifications and kriyas and all this crazy shit because you're working water path. Fire path is just safer.
Okay. And then you were, or should we cover this in the mastermind tomorrow? Or mastermind tomorrow. How to use the neurophone.
Neurophone's easy. Again, the thing that's the most important thing about the neurophone is that you have a way to run sound through it.
No, I'm interested in getting one, but I don't know where to get it. I'm talking about the other one, the
Neural Mist.
The Neural Mist. How to use that, where to find the information.
Oh, okay. We can cover that. We can cover that tomorrow in the mastermind.
Okay. And then will there be
easy to get, easy to use?
Will there be a good link for tomorrow, like there wasn't today?
Well, you'll have to yell at Moss because he told me all the links were up, and I actually had to wind up posting them at 4 o'clock. I'm literally posting links because the links I thought were there weren't. So yell at Moss. Moss, bad Moss, right?
He never got back with me because I said
make
it's
mistakes.
still not working. It's still not working, and I texted Mia. I texted.
Yeah. Well, Mia doesn't control any of that, so talking to her is kind of pointless.
The thing is,
Moss is out at a Taoist temple right now, contemplating his navel and his lower dantian and whatever else Taoists contemplate. So I'll post the links tonight, so don't worry.
Okay. So is there? So we'll talk about Neural Mist tomorrow.
Sure.
And the other one also.
No, we'll talk about whatever you guys want.
Okay.
Masterminds are for you guys.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Jax. You're up.
Hey, David. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So I've got one quick question and 2 or 3 little other questions. So my first question that came up on YouTube was, is Muay Thai or Kung Fu, which one is easier to learn? I chose Muay Thai.
Well, Muay Thai is simpler, but it's also harder physically on the body.
Yeah, I got that. I'm watching these guys in fights and I'm seeing who's doing what, and it's
I think they've gotten a little bit better in the last 20, 30 years. When I was first learning Muay Thai back in the 90s, these guys were still kicking banana trees with their shins. So the training equipment has gotten a little better.
I thought about doing that at one point, going to monastery, and I'm like, nah, no,
Kung
I'd never
Fu
do Tai Chi.
Kung Fu is a longer process. And again, a lot depends on your teacher, but there's more you can do with it. I mean, if you're just looking for physical exercise, Muay Thai will get you there fast. You're huge.
Well, right now I'm still trying to walk. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's
Okay.
gonna happen. So the other questions I have is seed beads, for ears and pain and so on.
You mean ear seeds?
Yeah. Now I was told I could put them wherever the pain was.
Mhm.
And I'm realizing my pain isn't going to go away because there is a physical context to it. Okay. I am still trying to get things moving as far as healing, but because I can't walk very well, everything's really weak. So
If I were you, then I would do sitting qigong, and I would do some form of jianzhang or standing exercise, either wuji meditation or a very modified 18 rules of posture stance, and do your qigong that way. I wouldn't try to do anything more.
okay.
And then from
Well,
there,
I'm still doing what you've been teaching
from
me.
there, I would work into just some basic Tai Chi postures like brush knee or wave hands like clouds, white crane cools its wing. Those are probably going to be the gentlest posture and mechanically friendly.
And that's Tai Chi, you said, or Qigong?
Tai Chi. No, well, you start with Tai Chi.
Okay, so
Tai Chi does have a Qigong component inside of it, but the movement will actually heal you faster.
Okay.
Moving meditation is actually 100 times more powerful than standing meditation. The problem is that if your alignment isn't right, it's like moving a cup that's filled to the rim with water and trying to move it without spilling it. And so you wind up wasting a lot of energy because your alignment isn't right. So it's always safer to do standing and quiescent meditation because you don't have the same level of leakage.
Okay. All right. I found a really good Tai Chi teacher on YouTube, so I'll be able to learn.
There's some good ones out there. There's some good ones out there.
Yeah. The next question is, okay, we've been talking about me being out of body a lot. It's starting to come down a little bit. I'm getting more balanced and more grounded. But the other day, a lot of times when I'm in really heavy pain and I can't find something that'll help me with it, I lay down and I don't move my body, and I raise up out of my body, just above my body. So I'm not feeling that pain.
Right.
But I just rescued my friend's cat. She's no longer going to be living here. She's moving to a psychiatric hospital. The other day I was doing that, and Kitty jumped up on the bed, and I felt like, bam. I felt like something hit my body like a ton of bricks, and I know it was me coming back into my body, but is there a way that I can avoid that? Because that does not feel good.
No.
No.
If something's going to shock you back into your body, it's called shock for a reason.
I don't understand. Why will it be the reason?
Well,
him jumping up on the bed.
Yeah.
Interruptions.
Yeah. Here's the secret. Lock the fucking door.
I don't have a door. I took them off.
Get a door and lock it.
That's a good idea.
Right. The idea behind that, when we're doing any kind of out of body work, if anything sudden in the environment happens that's a threat to the physical body, it's going to snap you into the back into the body like it's nobody's business. You're built for that shit. Right. That's why when I'm guiding you guys through your trance work, I say, put the cat outside, close the door, put the dog out, because cats and dogs love energy work. They love fucking trance, and they love to jump into your lap or on the keyboard while shit's going on.
Yes.
Okay. They love energy. They love energy. especially if you're doing a lot of body of light work where you're increasing your radiance. You ever see those scenes in like Cinderella or Snow White where the birds come in and they land and they just tweeting, right? That actually happens. If you're out in the woods and you fill yourself with light and you just dissolve until there's no you left, animals will come around and sit by you. They'll sit on you, right? Because they feel that connection and that radiance and they want to be part of it. Then the minute you come back to yourself, they're gone.
Well, I know one of the things that this cat has done for me is he's helped with my depression. I have been so sick and I want to heal. I want to get better, David. But I don't know what comes with anemia. They haven't found why I'm bleeding yet. So I'm learning what I can rebuild red blood cells with, but it's not holding.
Are you eating a lot of bone broth?
No, but that would be a good idea. I'm eating a lot of beef and calf liver.
But make real bone broth. Go to the market and get pork bones or beef bones and just boil them and use that.
Yeah, I can go up to the market, get 30 pounds of turkey neck. So okay. I got to do something because I feel like I'm falling apart here.
Okay.
And I talked to Moss the other day, and as soon as I can get back to work and get the money together, I'm going to come up and see him.
Okay, good. Very good.
All right. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Who else is up? What would now be a good time? Ivy, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to find the unmute button. Tell me, speaking of helps, the audio, I just got a new thing ordered tomorrow. So next time, I hope you can hear me better.
I mean, your audio is so garbled. I can barely understand every other word you're saying, sweetie.
Alrighty. Is that helpful?
That's better for the moment. We'll see if it sticks.
Okay. Let's do what we can do.
Okay.
I'm getting a new headset. I feel like I'm mentally at my limit. I guess to feel less in fear constantly, to feel less drained, and to have my own energy back, what should I do or practice on and focus on?
I would start doing, if you go to my YouTube channel, I would start doing a lot of gray room.
Oh.
Gray room is a good, solid, general negativity cleanser. You don't even have to constantly know what the hell it is you're clearing. As long as you can reach out and touch it, point to where you feel it, you can start clearing off stuff there. And then spend a lot of time either on audios of me or somebody that you want to work with doing the safe place induction.
My only question with that is, can you pull something good off on accident and then throw it in the fire, or is it just the bad?
No, you'll know.
Okay.
That's why the touching part, that's why we reach out, we point to where we feel it, we reach out and we touch it. Because if it's a feeling we want to change, then we know it's bad, right? But when you go into the gray room, we'll tell you there's all the good stuff has a certain color or set of colors. All the not so good stuff has different colors, but you're always checking, right? And then there may be stuff that resists coming off, and those are things that have what we call safety lessons attached. And when you find those and you apply the magic frame to that particular square, and then you preserve that and you let everything else go.
And would that help with calling back the energy if you feel super burnt out?
It can, because a lot of times the reason we feel drained is because we're using a lot of energy to keep things locked in the body. Now, what will also happen is as you release that energy and you release that negativity, what will happen is there'll be so much energy released into the body, you'll get tired again. But it's kind of the difference between being exhausted from overexertion versus being exhausted from eating too big a meal.
Well, I'm about to be in a safe space, and I know that everything hits you once you're out of your like environment that makes you go crazy, and it hits you once you're safe. So I'm like, what can I do so I don't absolutely spiral and just have a very hellish time?
Start with the safe place induction, work on your transformational triad techniques, then do the gray room. And then I would, and I'm going to say this once again, reach out to someone like Maria or Tom or Holly or Julie, who has a strong background in therapeutic applications, and work out something with them where they can guide you through processes.
So like color breathing.
Mm-hmm.
The
Well,
magic
a lot of
waterfall.
things you can do. A lot of things you can do by yourself, on yourself. But there are other things that you need somebody else driving, just so you can get to it and be fully present.
James was at your last one. He walked me through one last time. That was really sweet.
James,
but I've been here for years.
Okay, Jay, I don't know who. I don't know what James is on the other end of that name. But if you guys are comfortable with each other,
The James that was speaking in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't see his picture. So, but if you're comfortable with James and you want to work with James, that's fine. I mean, if he's got the techniques that you need, and he has the credentialing to do that work, then that's fine. Right? I can only talk about people I know have been through my certifications and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Who else? Going once. Going twice. Oh, Jazjeet, talk to me.
You know, one of the things I've been wondering about is like, we say we have the source in us. Source of all energy is God, and we have a piece of God in us. So when we do Qigong, we pull energy from the sky, we pull energy from the earth, but the source of that energy is just one, and we have that source in us. Why not just expand the energy from the inside, from our soul, because it's unlimited? Why do all that work when you can just have it inside and just expand that energy and let it flow all over the universe?
Great question. Why don't you?
Because you haven't told us that.
But you just came up with it.
I wanted your input on that.
Everything you need is already inside of you. You just have to get to it. A lot of your Qigong is designed to peel back the layers and the shells around your true self so you can let that light shine out. But if you can get there and let the heart open, you're good. Yep.
Can I share a success story?
Sure.
Remember the vibration influence? You taught us that technique where we circle and then we give them a heart energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that Wednesday I was in this classroom with kindergartners, and there's this little 6-year-old girl, and she just started. She went to her. She went somewhere, and she just started cussing at her para that she has a one-on-one. Just fuck you, you fucking bitch, you dumb fudge, bitch. Fuck you, bitch, bitch. Shut up. You don't know anything. Just on and on. She was doing that. I was like, that's a great opportunity. So I wrapped her in my energy. I waited till I felt like a little rapport with her, wrapped her in energy, and sent her heart energy. And I said, I love you. And I said, you're safe. You're safe. You're loved and you're safe. At that point, she stopped.
Boom.
So I'm thinking maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe she wasn't stopped at that moment, or maybe it's working.
Children are very, 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 very sensitive to heart energy. I learned this the hard way. and when you line up the three bodies with that intent, and again, it's basic training from Killer Influence, but now you're taking it to a whole different level, right? Once you can open that heart and expand that field, that energy will impact everybody else's fields and it will just wash over them, right? It may take a few minutes for it to settle or to have an effect, but it will gentle the emotions as long as you can maintain that state. Very good. Well done.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Love that stuff. Never gets old. Right? To quote Sean Connery, rather glad the magic works. All right. And on that note, any last questions before we call it a day? James, go ahead, brother.
No real question. I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, my friend.
That's it. Just thank you. Thank everybody who came. I've actually learned a lot.
Well, on that note, my friends, if I don't, well, for those of you who are diamond level and above, mastermind members, we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our hands-on training and skill building session. We'll start at 11 a.m. Pacific. We'll go to about 4 p.m. Pacific. For those of you who are on YouTube and would like to participate in that training, all you need to do is upgrade your membership to the diamond level through the YouTube channel, or you can go, I think you can go to our website and join there. But for most of you watching through YouTube, it's probably better if you join through YouTube. And you can participate and do some actual hands-on work with us and see us face to face and stuff like that. Be on the lookout for more random videos and other things. I've got so many different, I'm like inundated with all these different AI platforms that I'm trying desperately to get to fly in formation. And I'm so busy doing things, I'm getting nothing done. But if I don't talk to you between now and Christmas, have a very, very happy holiday. Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you celebrate, have a great one. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends.
Good night.